Let's set the scene. It's September 2008. A bank that's been around for 158 years, a true titan of Wall Street, just vanishes. It's not just a crack in the system, it's a full-blown financial earthquake, and the entire world is about to feel the aftershocks. And that's the number at the heart of the initial shock. $600 billion. That's how much wealth evaporated, seemingly overnight when Lehman Brothers collapsed. Now, this wasn't just some abstract number on a screen. No, this was retirement accounts, life savings, the financial bedrock for millions of people just gone. So you have to ask, how in the world did we get here? How does the global economy get pushed to the absolute brink? Well, the crazy part is that the root of this unbelievably complex disaster wasn't some high-level financial formula nobody could understand. It all started with a simple, incredibly seductive promise. To really get this, we got to wind the clock back to the early 2000s. The US was shaking off the dot-com bust, and to get things moving, the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to practically nothing. Suddenly, money was cheap, borrowing was super easy, and the classic American dream, well, it got a massive, supercharged upgrade. And I'm not kidding, this was a real thing. It's called a ninja loan, and it stands for exactly what you see here. All the old sensible rules of lending, things like having a job to actually pay back the loan, they were just tossed right out the window. Pretty much, if you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage. This is where it just gets wild. We're talking about people with barely any savings getting the keys to $500,000 homes. The entire system was basically running on this one single belief, that housing prices would just keep going up forever. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? And you know what? For a while, that belief seemed to be right. Just look at this. That's not steady growth. That is a rocket ship with the brakes cut. People weren't just buying homes to live in anymore. They were buying them like they were lottery tickets, just waiting to flip them for a massive profit. So while Main Street was caught up in this home buying frenzy, the really high-stakes game was happening on Wall Street. The big banks saw all these super risky loans being handed out, and they didn't see danger. Oh no, they saw a golden opportunity to cook up something brand new and incredibly profitable. So here's the magic trick. Step 1, you take thousands of those awful ninja loans, we're talking financial garbage here, and you bundle them all together into something called a mortgage-backed security, or MBS. Step 2, you take those bundles, slice them up, and mix them together into even more complicated financial cocktails called CDOs. And the final, most important step, you get someone to officially declare this toxic waste a top-tier, totally safe investment. Right, so how on earth did they get that safe rating? Well, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The ratings agencies, the companies that were supposed to be the impartial referees of the financial world, were getting paid by the very banks whose products they were rating. It was a staggering conflict of interest. They gave these bundles of junk a AAA stamp of approval because that's what their clients paid them to do. Now, not everybody was buying into the hype. There was this small group of outsiders, real contrarians, who looked at this whole system and saw the rot underneath. And they didn't just want to stay away from it. They wanted to bet against it. They wanted to make money from the collapse they saw coming. And this was the tool they used to do it. It's called a credit default swap. Now, the absolutely crucial part here is that last line. You didn't have to own the asset to buy insurance on it. This let investors make billions of dollars in bets that the housing market would crash, basically turning the entire global financial system into one giant casino. So let's just put it all together. Every single bad loan was one wobbly Jenga block. Every fake AAA rating was another shaky layer. And every credit default swap was someone making a massive bet that the whole thing was about to come crashing down. That Jenga tower was just getting taller and more unstable by the second. And then, in 2007, someone finally pulled the wrong block. The music stopped. The party was officially over. And that massive Jenga tower began to sway. And the fall? Wow, it was terrifyingly fast. First, home prices started to dip, the one thing that wasn't ever supposed to happen. Then the lenders who specialized in all those bad loans started to go bankrupt, one after another. And then came the big one. Lehman Brothers, a pillar of Wall Street, completely collapsed, sending a shockwave across the entire planet. Now, the crisis felt very different depending on who you were. On Wall Street, the problem was that they were suddenly holding what one person called financial plutonium. Credit markets just froze solid. But for regular people on Main Street, the problems were way more immediate and brutal. We're talking eviction notices on the door, jobs disappearing, and watching a lifetime of savings just vanish. The global economy was in a death spiral, and the government faced this absolutely impossible choice. Do you let the entire system just burn to the ground, or do you use taxpayer money to save the very institutions that started the fire in the first place? They chose to save them. Congress pushed through the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP, $700 billion. It was a massive fire hose of public money aimed straight at Wall Street, all to stop a complete and total meltdown of the world's financial system. And that was just the beginning. The Federal Reserve unleashed its own, what some called, a money cannon. They slashed interest rates back down to zero and started this radical new policy called quantitative easing, which is basically a fancy term for printing money out of thin air to pump into the economy. It was this desperate, unprecedented attempt to keep the whole ship from sinking. Well, the system, technically speaking, was saved. The stock market did eventually recover. But the economic damage, and maybe more importantly, the social damage, was just immense. It left this deep, lasting scar of mistrust that's still with us today. Because this was the real cost of the crisis. I mean, just look at these numbers. 8 million jobs gone. 4 million families lost their homes. $19 trillion in household wealth erased. This wasn't just a recession. For millions and millions of people, it was a personal catastrophe. All that pain, combined with the feeling that Wall Street got a bailout while Main Street got sold out, it just boiled over. In 2011, the Occupy Wall Street movement took over a park in New York's financial district. And this phrase, "we are the 99%, it became the rallying cry for a whole generation that felt like the system was completely rigged against them. And this, for so many people, is the most bitter pill to swallow. Despite all the fraud, despite the catastrophic damage done to the world, there was almost no accountability at the top. Not a single major Wall Street CEO went to jail. The financial system was patched back together, yeah, but public trust in our most important institutions, it was burned to the ground. So what's the big takeaway from all this? I think it's that 2008 taught us that the biggest risks are very often hiding in plain sight. They're disguised as smart, safe, and wildly profitable innovations. And that leaves us with a really critical question we have to ask ourselves. As we look at our own economy today, with all its new products and new booms, what are we missing this time?